these wine and war webinar Q&As have proved really exciting, much more exciting than I anticipated, especially now that we're branching out from some of the characters in the film to exploring people who, as Mark said, sadly are not involved in the film, but whose presence in Lebanon and their presence within the wine industry certainly touches upon some of the tropes that make up part of the film. And it really gives me a huge thrill today to have Hiba Najm of Domaine Najem in Batroun, a small winery. I think Hiba will correct me, but they make about 6,000 to 7,000 bottles of wine.
Not quite yet. Not quite there yet. Hopefully.
5,000, let's say. Okay.
Okay. Let us say.
Okay. And it is every now and then you stumble upon something very special. You stumble upon a wine that makes you throw away the tasting sheet that you'll have in your wine classes. Definitely the WSET systematic approach to tasting would be torn up and thrown in the bin. But when you taste Hiba's wines, you taste things in these wines that there are no categories for. There's no category in a tasting sheet for humanity. There's no category in a tasting sheet for generosity of spirit. There's no category for character. And Hiba's wines have all this in abundance, as well as having all the usual stuff that wine people look for, you know, the fruit and the acidity and so on. But they also have a little bit more, and I think that's what makes her wine so special. And I think also, and I hope we will discover in the next half hour, is that Hiba's journey from growing up as a child in Damour, in war, and sadly losing her father in that war, and growing up in Lebanon, a land that we all know by now is defined by instability and conflict, creates a certain resilience in people. And I'm looking forward to hearing Hiba's story in greater detail. I've heard it before, but just how her life experience has shaped her and where it's taken her to where she is today, a winemaker and a mother. So Hiba, I'm going to crack on with my first question.
Okay.
And it's just going to be, what does it mean to be Lebanese? What does it mean to you to be Lebanese in this world today?
Wow, it's a loaded question. Being Lebanese has many meanings. If you want to say it is a mixture between Oriental growing and Occidental growing, also we have a mixture of this. It's being someone who, for my case, I was, as you said, subjected to war at an early age, and I have known a loss. So it's being sometimes feeling insecure, but at the same time it's being hopeful for the future. It's being strong always to do what we want, to see the day. This is it's a lot of mixture. It's a weird mixture if you want, being a Lebanese person. It's lost. Sometimes you don't know. You wake up, don't know what's happening. This is what being Lebanese. You see the day. You live each moment by itself.
And tell me, you, I think, without revealing your age, you are like me, a child of the war. You are a child of the war. What were your, if I can ask you, what were your earliest memories? What were your earliest memories growing up?
Well, as you said, I'm from Damour. It's a coastal town to the south of Beirut, not even 10 minutes away from Beirut. My first memory, it's more glimpses, it's more flashes of when we were running at night, flooding our home. And it was in January 76. I was not even 5. here I revealed my age, I'm 49. So it is glimpses, you are running, Damour, it's more, you have trees, agrumes, citrus trees, and you are running there, and sometimes you look, you see fire, you hear clashes, this is my early, then you reach the shore and you see, you have to go to the boat that are in the middle of the sea, we have to take small boats, and this is my first, if you want, my first memories of the war.
It's not a childhood that most people would ask for.
No.
But it must have been the norm for you at some point. This must have been normal. How has it shaped you? How has it made you the person that is? These events, the fear, the anxiety, the insecurity. How have you been able to take all this and channel it in a positive way?
Well, I was lucky to have a wonderful mom. So she raised us, we are 5 kids, so she raised us with values. We have, first of all, we have to stick to each other. We have to always look for the real value in things, not the shallow things. We have to always focus on what doing, never give up, even if there is hardship along the way. And then it was very important to her to have our complete all our higher studies, so we will be able to face whatever challenge is against us, not to rely on anybody but ourselves. So this is what made me, if you want.
The film, one of the main pillars of the film is the resilience of the Lebanese people and the Lebanese entrepreneur, the Lebanese business person, and of course the Lebanese winemaker. We've chosen to embody all these different people within the Lebanese winemaker. How would you describe the resilience that the Lebanese have had to, if you want, embrace for thousands of years, because they've been occupied and conquered and walked over?
So
is there anything you'd like to comment on that, to add to that, about the fact that we can make anything possible?
It is. When you grow up and you don't have anything for granted, you have to always work for whatever you want. And someday you wake up, you see everything is gone, is trampled, you lose things and you gain things. This is what makes you, you cannot give up. You have to continue. We are here, we're from this land, we have to stay in this land. This is what it is all about. This is what the war taught us. Either you give up and you leave, or like us, you don't know, you stay here. This is our land and we will stay. This is what makes us, I think this is what gives us a focus, or what the motive to continue. So we are very resilient, yes.
And sadly, Lebanon once again faces instability. You don't only have the corona pandemic, but you've got a financial crisis and political instability. Once again, is creating a sense of existential unease among the Lebanese. How has the recent crises, the two crises, how have they affected your daily life and your family life and life in the vineyard?
Well, first of all, before the COVID-19, as you know, we had a revolution. So it is affected my kids. They had to, sometimes their going to school was not always constant. And then you couldn't go anywhere, and you couldn't leave your house in order to do the basic things because it was cut. Sometimes there were tires on fire. It was not very lovely. Then with the corona that came, we had to leave where we live here, if you want, the city, and we went to the village. and everything stopped. So it was difficult, more and more difficult. We couldn't find the basic things. And even for my vineyard, for instance, if I wanted to buy material or bottles or whatever in order to continue, even the smallest thing, it was very hard because sadly everybody wanted no longer, they didn't want to, if you want to work with Lebanese pounds, everybody wanted dollars, and it was very hard to come by with it. So it's very tough. It's not an easy situation, and it's not an easy period, and hopefully it will not last long, because I don't know how we can continue. It's not easy to come up with things, especially me as a small producer. I rely on others to buy my bottles, my corks, because I cannot buy huge amounts. I buy small quantities, so it's not easy for me.
How have you been able to use your experiences growing up in war, and then, I mean, have you been able to draw on that, if you want, that reservoir of resilience, if we want to call it? Have you been able to do that?
Of course, you know, when you face such thing, you remember when you couldn't go, for instance, if you couldn't buy whatever you want. We are used to this. My kids not so, but my husband and I, especially me, we are used to. We are used to doing our own things. We can, with the little thing that we have, we can provide the family. We don't, yes, of course, it's my, as I said, how I was raised, to rely on me, not expect anything to be easily. So this is, it's good. You have to continue.
So why wine?
Well, it was, as you know, I started as an agricultural engineer, and it was a general thing. Then once I finished, it was more my boyfriend at the time, now he is my husband, it was more out of curiosity. I liked it, and he pushed me to it. So I went to France to do this, and the more I learned and I worked with it, the more I fell in love with the winemaking. It became more a passion than a business or something else. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I like doing it for my, how do you say, it's for myself. It's not, it's something that I like to do.
Did you, and when you joined the Lebanese wine industry, did you know that there was a very proud tradition stretching back hundreds of years, of which people have made their wine in difficult situations? Did you, I mean, were you aware of this?
Well, a little bit, because as I said, once we started, it was more like a hobby. And then being a woman and an agricultural engineer, and in Lebanon, you know, it's not very common. And I think I was one of the first or the second one in Lebanon. I was having a wine degree. I think I'm the second in Lebanon. So it was very weird for them, and eventually they get used to the idea, but it's still like something new.
Do people take you seriously as a woman and a small producer?
It's more the idea of being a small producer than being a woman. As a woman, they appreciate, they are, if you want, they are proud of having someone. I know my family and my entourage, they are proud to having a woman in this position. For the being a small wine producer is more challenging, because they don't take us seriously, because we produce small quantities, not in the norms, special quantities. So this is what we face more, not very taking us seriously. So they tell us, okay, what are you doing? You are playing. It's more a play for them than it's a serious thing.
So how do you get around that? How do you make people take you seriously?
Well, first of all, I adore talking about my wine and about what I'm doing, and apparently they like it. So, and then I invite everybody to come see us in the Domaine, the way we do things, to taste. Hopefully, they like our style, or else it is something that they will what do we say, they like. If they don't like our style, it's no bad luck, but at least we know each other, they know about us. So this is more, and then we speak, and that's it.
So this is the question I've been looking forward to asking. As I said, what fascinates you, what fascinates me about your wines is that they don't tick the regular boxes. They're a little bit off-piste, if you want. They're not squeaky clean. They have a few, people might call them flaws. I would like to say that you'd say they're characteristics, and it's what gives them, as far as I'm concerned, humanity. But where does that come from? Where inside Hiba does that come from? Where does the character of your wines come from? Is it the land? Is it you? Is it a philosophy that you decided upon?
I think it's a little bit of everything. First of all, I'm a person that like nature and natural things. I'm not into what do we say? For me, the wine is a living product. So if I want to produce something similar to others, it's like I used to say, I'm not producing Coca-Cola, I'm producing wine. I want to do a wine that reflects the land that was planted in it, to reflect my what I like, my taste. I am always searching for something different. I don't like to do something similar or to others. This is why even in everything that I do, I like to stand out. If you want, it's good, it's not good, but and I want to do something that uh, that uh, uh, put me, if you want, that stands out on the shelf or something. This is why it comes from the way I do things. It comes from the identity of my of the terroir, and then it's a natural wine. So I don't tend to add lots of things to it.
But well, I've compared it. Other people have as well. Compared it to the in character to Chateau Mouzar, one of Lebanon's most celebrated wines. Did you deliberately set out to
No,
that high
not at
VA,
all.
little bit of
No, no,
Brett
no,
Brettanomyces,
no,
that
no, no, no,
slightly
not
funky
at all.
style?
Not at all, and I'm flattered, but not at all. It was not intentional, not at all. I don't know why, but I don't even know if they use the same grapes, the same blendings as I do. My wine is it has, I think the majority of my wine, as you know, Michael, it's from Mourvèdre. It's 70 to 80% Mourvèdre, with a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon and a little bit of Grenache. I like the character of Mourvèdre. It's special. It reflects me, because either you like it or don't. I know, you know it. We discussed about it, and I use the Cabernet to give it the ability of aging, to give it a more skeleton, if you want, a more full body. And the Grenache was a link to make it rounder between the two characters. So I don't know how it is related to Mizar. No idea, but it was not intentional. It was like this. We planted it. It came out like this.
Well,
Maybe.
I'm extremely happy that it's happened that way.
Me
Anyway,
too.
uh, I'd like to take you back. I'd like to take you back to 2006, when we had a very brief summer war between Israel and Hezbollah.
Yes.
And I remember it was there was a fear at the time that we wouldn't be able to pick our grapes. We wouldn't be able to harvest.
Right.
Apart from that, apart from the fact that you had an immediate problem on your hands.
Yeah.
Did the fighting and the movement of people, because there was a lot of people moving, there was exodus from the south, people were fleeing the south, coming to Beirut. Did that kind of trigger any memories in you? Did it?
Of course.
I mean, what were you feeling during this? Were we thinking, oh God, here we go again? You know?
It was more, I was, you know, in 2006, my eldest daughter, she was not even 8, and I had 2 small kids, 2 and 3 years old. So the fear was, the first thing that popped into my mind, I didn't want them to go through what I have been through. It was different than the situation, but you know, at the first thing, I don't want them to face this, especially when the Israeli airplanes started to bombing the bridges and cutting all the towns between each other. It was like a shock. Then and after, no, it's different because it's not very close. I was not in the war directly. It was more the impact, but it passed, and after we stayed, we picked our grapes, and it was a beautiful year. So
it was your first vintage, I think, wasn't it? Your first vintage, or
it
your
was one of my first. It was one of my first, but because not actually my first. We started, if you want, planting in '94. So it was after 5-6 years, we started trials and errors. In 2006, I figured that the more better starts to give me what I want. So it was but it was a very small quantity. We had, I think, around 800 bottles at the beginning. So it was one of our first, with the identity that I was searching for.
What was your feeling when you first tasted your first sip of your first vintage? What was your feeling?
Well, it was incredible to be able to taste something that I produced, something that came from my land, something that my family and we worked hard to, and we put together. We did everything by ourselves. It's something, you know, it's beautiful when you create something. It gives you a feeling of fulfillment, if you will say. I think there is a fulfillment.
You told me once, you said that you don't use oak
No.
because life is too short.
Of course, life is too short. It's still too short.
Life is too short, and I'm sure your life experience has shaped that opinion. You don't use oak. You want your wines to be drunk
Young.
as soon as possible.
Yes.
I've forgotten what I was going to ask you now. No, I just think that has your life experience shaped the wines that you make? And I think I probably answered that in the question by saying what you once told me. But can you expand a little bit more on your philosophy of life is about now, and how that is reflected in your wines?
Yes, as I told you, being faced to a loss at a young age, when I lost my father, then later on we had to flee our native town and go, and then being through numerous wars throughout my years, I figured that why wait? If you want to enjoy things, might as well enjoy them now. You have to live each day by its day. As I told Lebanese, you don't know what will happen. You go to sleep, you don't know when you wake up what will be facing you. So I want to seize the moment. I want to enjoy my moment, and later on, if I can redo it again, why not? But I don't want to miss the opportunity of living. I want to live. This is why I don't use oak, because I don't want to wait. I don't know if I will in 5-10 years and the wine is ready to be drunk. If, I think it is like this. Where will I be? I intend to be here, but nobody knows. So this is why I don't like the use of oak. And second of all, I want the identity. I want the aromas, the natural, the fruitness of the flavor. I don't want it to be a little bit. How do we say? Hidden with the oak and something. This is me. This is what I like.
Hiba, I'm going to throw. I'm going to open the floor now. If anyone wants to ask Hiba any questions.
Maybe I have a question for Hiba.
Yes.
Hi Hiba, nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you? Same here.
I have a rather technical question. How much alcohol does your red wine contain?
It contains around 13% alcohol.
13?
13
really?
to, yeah, 13, not even 14, yes. 13%. Because even though I know you are a little bit
I'm surprised, but
surprised because I don't know what it is called in English. I will try to explain it. The way I grow my vines, it is something called in French, maybe Michael can help me with English, or May, it's called gobelet méridional. It means it stands like this. The leaves, they shade it, so it tends not to be over, to have over too much sun, so the sugar is not over. So it helps. And then where we are at 600 meters above sea level, it's a little bit cool at night, so it's not too much sugar.
And do you do vendange verte?
Of course, yes.
This is incredible because your production is not that big. It is rather small. And
I know, but despite that, I do vendange, the vendange au vert, because I'm very focused on the quality more than the quantity. So, you know, each year or each 5 to 10 years, I tend to plant things more. So I don't want it to have a huge production. I want a very good quality. So this is why I don't like to have an overproduction.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a question. Do you hear me?
Hi, Norbert. Yes, of
Hi,
course.
how are you? Listen, I love your reds, by the way, but I'm just always curious, when are you going to break into the whites? I know you said that you don't want to go into whites because of the terroir up there is not conducive, but I think you would make some very interesting ones.
We're thinking about expanding, but the problem, I told you, for me, 600 meters in the region that we are, I will not be able to have the full aromatic experience of the whites. So we are waiting to be able to go at higher altitude in order, maybe 900 to 1,000 meters. And I have also a thing that I like to produce, to grow my own grapes. I'm not into buying grapes from everywhere. This is why I don't have land at a high altitude. Hopefully we will have land, we will prepare it, and we will grow white in it. Maybe we will try a trial before putting it with this altitude, I'm not sure of the quality that it will give, the aromas. There will not be full aromas.
Would you think about doing any of the indigenous grapes, the Obedi or the Merwa or something like that, or would you?
Why not? I don't know. Maybe I will search for something a little bit special. Everybody tends to do these things. I'm more into something special. So I'm trying to find a variety that's not very common. I'm not into common things, if you want.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Hi, Hiba. Jamal Reyes.
Hi.
So you chose the Mouvetre, which,
yes.
Interestingly, given the the blends of Mediterranean grapes you can find commonly in Lebanon, the Carignan, the Cinsault, the Grenache. Mourvèdre is one that you don't find so often.
Yes.
Why did you select it? Where did you get the plant material from? And is there a particular, I know you make your own wine for yourself, but is there a model of Mourvèdre-based wine that you particularly are interested in?
For the last part, no, not really.
Okay.
But once we were in, as I said, once we started planting, we wanted to choose something special. So we did our research of numerous grape varieties. And once we searched for Mourvèdre, something clicked, if you want. So we started, this is why. And we didn't want to go into the normal, regular, if you want, varieties that are everywhere. With a small production, I cannot be like everybody else. If I want to do something, I have to do something to stand out. If I chose the normal varieties, I will be with a small production, I will be like we say, but there is an expression, I will be lost in the sea. So no, I wanted to do something special. So this is why. And once I started working with it, I liked what it gives. So we stick to it. And we planted a little, when we do, before we started a little bit of Syrah, a little bit of Cabernet, and we started the normal things, we stick
Michael, there's a question from the floor from Philippa about Moussar, your comparison about the use of oak. And this is a question for both Michael and Hiba. You know, Moussar does use oak, I know, and their philosophy is quite the opposite of yours. Michael, could you kind of compare and contrast and then move it over to Hiba, please?
Well, I think this is my fault for introducing the comparison, which is purely my own personal take on it. I mean, the blends are different. Hiba uses Mourvèdre, Grenache, and a bit of Cab. So
Losing a connection problem.
Yes.
Michael, I think we lost you. Well, until
I think what he's going to say is that the styles are very different, but I think you were talking about, Michael, the sort of the biological aspects of Moussar not being particularly concerned with all the quote unquote proper sanitary, I don't mean dirty, but the sanitation or the regime is somewhat different. You're not afraid of the natural organisms that might come. You're not afraid of the Brettanomyces or what other sort of aspects biological aspects might infect or affect, affect the wine. So you're adhering to that same sort of model. As far as the philosophy in terms of the winemaking, of course, theirs is much more long aging. The blend is different, as Michael was saying, Cinsault or Carignan, Cinsault and Cabernet Sauvignon versus the Mourvèdre, Cabernet Sauvignon and Grenache. Is that right? Are you back, Michael?
Yeah, that's absolutely. You said it better than I could. Yes, it's more exactly.
It's just really fascinating for me, and we have a number of different producers who in Lebanon that have had the same life experience of struggle and war, and some have the opinion of it should be drunk sooner, right away, because life is too short. And it's interesting. I just find it very, very nice that you are doing the same, you know.
But where did you study in France?
I did my first period in Bordeaux, Then because I'm an agricultural engineer, I have to do a study, a technical study, if you want. Then I have to do research, a part of in order to have a master's. I've been to Montpellier. It's my 6-7 months research in order to present my thesis to have my degree in agricultural engineer and my master's in winemaking. So it was between
Montpellier
and Bordeaux.
And did you work at any wineries did you have the opportunity to work for any wineries in France, or?
No. Once I finished my degree, I went back to Lebanon. But I did a training in some wineries, but I didn't have the chance to work. I had to come back, and I couldn't.
Well, no, I think that's actually a testament to you. You had a mission. You wanted to make your country better.
Of course.
And live in it. Well, not everybody does.
I just want to chime in here. So this summer, when we were in Lebanon, Michael recommended, he said, you should go visit Hiba. I think you'd really like her wines. And we did. Beth and I actually came and visited, and we had a really nice visit. But Hiba also was generous enough to send us with some wine, which I brought back to New York. And with Beth, Beth has a lovely tasting group, and I organized the tasting of Lebanese wines. And we started off with, I think, 2 or 3 vintages of Hiba's wines, and then I had some other wines from different wineries. And we did a pretty extensive tasting, and I have to say that across the board, the quality was very good. But I think for everybody, the wines that really struck a chord were Hiba's wines. And it was interesting because they really came to it knowing nothing pretty much about, aside from Beth, who'd been there, but really knowing very little about Lebanese wines. And we did not taste Muzar, but we did taste a bunch of others. And the response to Hiba's wines was just genuine emotional excitement. So, and I shared that news with Hiba, but it was really, I think it was, to me, it was very eye-opening. And I really wanted to just have her wines tasted against, other wines from Lebanon. And they were, I think, the wines that more than anything else really spoke of I don't know, Michael, you said humanity, and I kind of have to agree. There was just something very, very special. So it is the grapes, maybe it's the winemaking, but it's beyond that. So I just wanted to say, I love your wines, Hiba. And I'm really enjoying this conversation, and I'm going to stop talking now, but I'm a fan.
Thank you, May, and hope to see you soon also.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Hiba, there's a question from the chat about where is your winery located? Could you explain briefly the Baka Valley and where you are in relation to that? And also, yes. People are wondering if your wines are exported.
Okay. First of all, we are located in the Batroun district. It is in the North Lebanon area. We are at 600 meters above sea level. We are very far from the Baka. The Baka, it's totally different. It's not near us. So it is where we live. It's a hill and surrounded by mountains. We are in a valley on a hill surrounded by mountains. We have the terroir, or the land. I think it's called lime scale in English. It's a gravuleux in French, but it's lime scale, I think, in English. We have a very poor soil. The majority of the region is planted with olive trees. And we don't have, in our village, we don't have any underground water. So we have lack of water, which for us, we have sunny days, cool nights in the summer. It's a little bit chilly in winter. So for us, it was perfect for the growth of, for creating a vineyard. We created our vineyard between our olive trees, because the land where we have, it's mainly olive trees. Some of them are 100 years old. So we try to create a little vineyard between those olive trees.
And
yes.
Hiba, you say you told me that you've got your biggest challenge at the boars.
Still have it, Michael. Well, apparently our land is the boars is a very favorable passage for the boars. So we have each year before harvest time, we have to pick them up before they eat them or they crush the trees or something. And now we have also the porcupine. It's another challenge, the birds, but it's nice. Especially the boars. They like North Path wine. What can I say?
Any more questions from the chat room or from the floor? Okay, Hiba, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I never had any doubts. I think your wines are wonderful. I've said that 5 or 6 times. I think your story is very inspiring and empowering, and we all hope that all these crises that we're all passing through, the multiple crises, will end soon, and we can all go back to a regular life, whatever that means. And we wish you every success with this year's harvest, and I hope to see you in Lebanon by the end of the year at some point.
Same here, but I think.
Sorry.
I think Jamal,
I have a question. Yeah, Hiba, are you only selling your wines in Lebanon, or are you doing any export?
We are trying. I forgot. This is the last part that I forgot to what was asked. We are looking forward to export, but it's a little bit difficult for us with having a small quantity. Sell them and mainly at the Domaine or on a platform in Lebanon. I think the platform they send abroad, but we are looking forward. For the time being, we don't sell outside of Lebanon for the time being.
But
we will get your wines in New York soon.
Hopefully. we were supposed to come, but with the COVID and whatever is happening, hopefully. Yes, right. Sorry, you were saying, okay.
All right.
Belgium would be easier probably than the US.
What? Well, excuse me, Belgium?
That Belgium would be probably easier than the US. Well, it's closer anyway.
It is closer, but you know what? Once we went to several exhibition foire in Europe. I think that's what I mean, but the people, I have never been to Belgium, but where we went in Europe, they are more, if you want, they're not very open as the Anglo-Saxon person, if you want. They wanted to come, they visited, but they said, but they have something much better. So maybe you are from Belgium. I'm not being mean, but this is what I
okay, no. There was an exception, believe me.
maybe. So that's it.
Well, we hope to have the wines here in New York sometime soon. So.
I hope to come to you wherever the need is. I hope to come whenever. I'm willing to come wherever the wind takes me, if you want.
Hey, but I have a question for you. What are you thinking of for white grapes? I know you sort of said you want to do something different, but have you had any thoughts?
Not really, because when we started, we had lots of things that happened. We didn't really give it a thought. But I'm more into, if you want, in white wine, I'm more into mineral white wines, not very fruity white wines. So this is what I want to do. I'm not a very fruity person. So this is what I'm trying to find something special about it. But we didn't really give it a good thought. We are waiting what we want to see where we'll be able to do something.
Okay. I'd be interested to see where you end up.
Yeah. We will work together if you want, May, all of you. Yes. No problem. Everybody's welcome to give me ideas. I'm very open to ideas. No problem with me.
Excellent. I'll put my thinking cap on. I'm sure Jamal will have some ideas too.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay. Okay.